What if I told you that everything you've been taught about being polite and socially acceptable is actually keeping you trapped in mediocrity? While the average man bends over backwards trying to please everyone around him, the Sigma male operates by a completely different set of rules. Rules that most people find deeply offensive because they challenge the very foundation of social conditioning. You see, gentlemen, the Sigma male doesn't just think differently, he acts differently. And these actions, while they might ruffle feathers and make others uncomfortable, are precisely what set him apart from the masses of beta males desperately seeking validation. Today, we're diving deep into the 7 most offensive behaviors that only Sigma males dare to embrace, behaviors that will shock you, inspire you, and quite possibly change the way you view masculine authenticity forever. But here's the thing, these aren't just random acts of rebellion. Each of these behaviors serves a specific purpose in the Sigma's quest for ultimate freedom and self-mastery. They're calculated moves in a chess game that most men don't even realize they're playing. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why these offensive traits are actually the secret weapons of the most powerful men on the planet. So buckle up, because we're about to shatter some illusions and reveal the uncomfortable truths that society doesn't want you to know about genuine masculine power. Strategic emotional detachment. The Sigma male has mastered what most men never will, the art of emotional economics. While others drain their energy on every drama, complaint, and crisis that crosses their path, the Sigma strategically invests his emotional currency only where it creates real value. Picture this. Your coworker comes to you for the 10th time this month, complaining about the same relationship problems. Most men feel obligated to play therapist, offer endless sympathy, and get sucked into the emotional vortex. The Sigma, he listens for exactly 3 minutes, offers one practical solution, and politely disengages when it's clear the person just wants to vent without taking action. This behavior is considered cold and heartless by society's standards. But here's the truth. The Sigma understands that emotional energy is finite. Wasting it on people who refuse to help themselves or situations beyond his control isn't compassion, it's self-destruction. In relationships, this detachment becomes even more offensive. The Sigma doesn't lose himself in romantic partnerships. He doesn't become emotionally dependent on his partner's moods or approval. When she's having a bad day, he doesn't automatically assume it's his job to fix it. When she tests his boundaries through emotional manipulation, he doesn't take the bait. This drives many women crazy because they're used to men who react emotionally to every relationship fluctuation. The Sigma's emotional stability represents a level of masculine strength that's both attractive and infuriating. He can't be controlled through guilt trips or dramatic displays. Sutta. Refusing to validate others' emotions. Here's where things get really controversial. The Sigma male refuses to be society's emotional validation machine. When someone comes to him seeking confirmation that their feelings are justified, their victim mentality is warranted, or their excuses are acceptable, he doesn't provide the comforting lies they're seeking. Instead, he does something that most people find deeply offensive. He tells the truth. If someone is complaining about consequences they created through their own poor decisions, the Sigma won't pretend they're a victim of circumstances. If someone is upset about a situation they have the power to change but refuse to address, he won't validate their helplessness. This rejection of emotional validation extends to workplace dynamics, where the Sigma won't participate in the collective complaint sessions that drain team productivity. While others bond over shared grievances and mutual victimhood, the Sigma focuses on solutions or removes himself from the conversation entirely. In social settings, this manifests as a refusal to engage with attention-seeking behavior. When someone, shares a story clearly designed to elicit sympathy, outrage, or validation, the Sigma responds with logic rather than emotion. He might ask practical questions about their plan to address the situation, or simply change the subject if the conversation serves no constructive purpose. The most offensive aspect of this behavior is how it forces others to confront their own emotional dependencies. When you encounter someone who won't feed your need for validation, it reveals how much of your social interaction is based on seeking external confirmation rather than internal strength. Prioritizing personal goals over social expectations. The Sigma male commits what society considers the ultimate sin. He puts his own goals and vision above what others expect from him. This isn't selfishness. It's strategic life management based on the understanding that you can't serve others from an empty vessel. When his family expects him to attend every gathering, holiday celebration, and social obligation, the Sigma evaluates each invitation based on whether it aligns with his priorities and values. If attending means sacrificing time he needs for his business, health, or personal development, he declines without elaborate explanations or apologies. This behavior is particularly offensive in cultures that prioritize collective harmony over individual achievement. The Sigma's willingness to disappoint others in service of his own growth challenges the fundamental belief that a good man always puts others first. In professional settings, this manifests as a refusal to take on projects, responsibilities, or commitments that don't advance his career objectives, while others say yes to every request to be seen as team players. The Sigma evaluates opportunities through the lens of strategic advancement rather than social acceptance. The most controversial application of this principle occurs in relationships. The Sigma won't sacrifice his life vision to accommodate a partner's expectations if those expectations conflict with his authentic path. He won't move to a city he doesn't want to live in, take a job that compromises his values, or abandon his goals to make someone else more comfortable. This approach often results in accusations of being selfish or uncaring, but the Sigma understands that maintaining his personal integrity and direction ultimately serves everyone better than pretending to be someone he's not. Direct communication without sugarcoating. While most men have been trained to soften their words, hedge their statements, and avoid potentially uncomfortable truths, the Sigma male communicates with surgical precision. He says exactly what he means without the social cushioning that others have come to expect. When a colleague's work is substandard, the Sigma doesn't waste time with elaborate compliment sandwiches or gentle suggestions. He clearly states what needs improvement and why. When someone asks for his opinion, he gives his honest assessment rather than the polite fiction they're hoping to hear. This direct communication style is particularly offensive in romantic relationships. Instead of playing guessing games, dropping hints, or engaging in passive-aggressive communication patterns, the Sigma states his needs, boundaries, and expectations explicitly. If something isn't working for him, he addresses it directly rather than hoping it will magically improve. The most controversial aspect of this communication style is the Sigma's refusal to participate in social lies. When someone asks, "How are you?" as a meaningless pleasantry, he might give an honest answer instead of the expected "fine." When someone fishing for compliments makes self-deprecating comments, he doesn't provide the reassurance they're seeking. This honesty forces others to confront their own relationship with truth. Most social interaction is built on a foundation of small lies, polite fictions, and strategic omissions. The Sigma's commitment to direct communication exposes this social theater and makes others uncomfortable with their own dishonesty. Selective relationship investment. Let me tell you about Marcus, a successful tech entrepreneur who shocked his entire social circle with what they called his ruthless approach to relationships. At his company's holiday party, while everyone else was making small talk with every person in the room, Marcus spent the entire evening in deep conversation with just three people: his mentor, a potential business partner, and his closest friend. When colleagues later criticized him for being antisocial and elitist, Marcus simply smiled and continued building the relationships that actually mattered to his life and goals. This is the essence of selective relationship investment. And it's perhaps the most offensive behavior a Sigma male can exhibit in our hyper-connected, everyone-is-equal society. The Sigma male operates on a fundamental truth that most people refuse to acknowledge. Not all relationships are created equal, and treating them as if they are is a recipe for mediocrity and exhaustion. The Sigma creates what I call a relationship portfolio, a strategic allocation of his time, energy, and emotional investment based on clear criteria rather than social expectations or emotional impulses. At the top of this hierarchy are the people who share his values, support his growth, and contribute positively to his life mission. These might include mentors who challenge him to grow, business partners who share his vision, friends who inspire him to be better, and romantic partners who complement rather than compete with his goals. In the middle tier are the functional relationships: colleagues who serve a professional purpose, acquaintances who provide occasional value, and social connections that serve specific functions in his life. These relationships receive polite but measured investment. The Sigma is friendly and professional, but he doesn't pretend these connections are deeper than they actually are. At the bottom of the hierarchy, and this is where it gets truly offensive to modern sensibilities, are the energy vampires, toxic individuals, and people who consistently take without giving. The Sigma doesn't just limit his investment in these relationships, he actively eliminates them from his life regardless of how others might judge this decision. This selective approach extends to digital relationships as well. While most men feel obligated to maintain hundreds of social media connections, respond to every message, and participate in every group chat, the Sigma curates his digital relationships with the same strategic thinking he applies to his in-person connections. He doesn't feel guilty about unfollowing people whose content adds no value to his life. He doesn't respond to messages from people seeking free advice, emotional validation, or time-wasting conversations. The most controversial application of this principle occurs within family dynamics. Society teaches us that blood relationships supersede all other considerations, that we must maintain connections with family members regardless of how toxic or draining they might be. The Sigma rejects this programming entirely. If a family member consistently brings drama, negativity, or destructive energy into his life, he limits contact or cuts them off completely. He understands that sharing DNA doesn't grant someone unlimited access to his peace of mind or emotional well-being. I've witnessed this play out in countless situations where Sigma males have been ostracized by their families for refusing to enable dysfunctional patterns or participate in toxic dynamics. While others label this behavior as cold or heartless, the Sigma understands that maintaining his own emotional and psychological health is not selfish. It's essential for his ability to serve the people and purposes that truly matter. In romantic relationships, this selective investment creates a completely different dynamic than what most people are accustomed to. The Sigma doesn't practice the love everyone equally philosophy that modern dating culture promotes. Instead, he clearly differentiates between casual dating, serious relationships, and life partnership. Each level receives appropriate investment, and he doesn't pretend that every romantic connection has the potential for forever. This approach is particularly offensive to women who have been conditioned to expect equal emotional investment from the moment they meet a man. The Sigma's ability to compartmentalize relationships based on their actual value and potential, rather than romantic fantasies or social expectations, forces others to confront their own unrealistic relationship expectations. The business applications of selective relationship investment are equally controversial. While networking events promote the idea that you should connect with everyone and build relationships indiscriminately, the Sigma focuses his networking efforts on high-value individuals who can actually impact his career trajectory. He doesn't waste time collecting business cards from people who can't help him achieve his goals, and he doesn't feel guilty about being strategic rather than social in his professional relationships. Unapologetic boundary enforcement. There's a moment that crystallizes everything about Sigma boundary enforcement. And it happened to a client of mine named David. His sister called him at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night, crying about her latest relationship drama. The same relationship drama she'd called about every week for the past 6 months. Instead of dropping everything to console her like he used to, David said, "Sarah, I care about you, but I'm not available for these conversations after 9 p.m. or more than once per month. If you want to discuss this, call me this weekend and we'll schedule a time." Then he hung up. His entire family exploded. He was called selfish, heartless, and uncaring. His mother accused him of abandoning his sister in her time of need. His father questioned what kind of man he'd raised. But David held firm because he understood something that most men never learn. Boundaries without enforcement are just suggestions, and suggestions don't protect your time, energy, or sanity. The Sigma male's approach to boundaries is revolutionary because it operates from a position of abundance rather than scarcity. Most men set weak boundaries because they're afraid of losing relationships, opportunities, or approval. They say things like, "I prefer if you didn't," or "It would be nice if you could," and then wonder why people walk all over them. The Sigma operates from the understanding that his time and energy are his most valuable resources, and anyone who doesn't respect that doesn't deserve access to him. This boundary enforcement manifests in multiple offensive ways that challenge every social conditioning most people have received about being nice and accommodating. In professional settings, the Sigma doesn't work beyond his established hours unless there's genuine emergency or strategic benefit. When colleagues try to dump last-minute projects on him, he doesn't scramble to accommodate their poor planning. When bosses attempt to expand his responsibilities without corresponding compensation, he clearly states his position and doesn't back down. I've seen Sigma males walk away from lucrative job opportunities because the company culture didn't respect work-life boundaries. While others might see this as career suicide, the Sigma understands that accepting boundary violations in exchange for money is a form of prostitution that ultimately costs more than it pays. In dating and relationships, the Sigma's boundary enforcement is particularly offensive to modern relationship dynamics. He doesn't tolerate lateness, game playing, or disrespectful behavior that many men accept as normal parts of dating. If a woman consistently cancels plans at the last minute, he doesn't offer multiple chances or try to understand her busy schedule. He simply stops making plans with her. If someone tries to manipulate him through emotional outbursts, silent treatments, or guilt trips, he doesn't engage with the manipulation or try to fix the situation. He removes himself entirely. This approach to romantic boundaries is deeply offensive to women who have been conditioned to test men's boundaries as a way of determining their strength and commitment. The Sigma's unwillingness to participate in these tests, combined with his readiness to walk away from relationships that don't serve him, forces women to either respect his boundaries or remove themselves from his life. The most controversial aspect of Sigma boundary enforcement is the complete absence of explanation or justification. Society expects men to defend their boundaries, to provide reasons why they deserve respect, and to negotiate their limits based on others' needs and feelings. The Sigma rejects this framework entirely. He doesn't explain why he won't work weekends, why he won't attend certain social events, or why he won't engage in specific types of conversations. His boundaries exist because he says they exist, and that's the only justification required. This refusal to justify boundaries is particularly triggering for people who are used to wearing down others' resistance through argument, manipulation, or emotional pressure. When someone can't debate your boundaries or make you feel guilty for having them, it forces them to either respect your limits or reveal their manipulative nature. The enforcement mechanism is equally important as the boundaries themselves. The Sigma doesn't give warnings, second chances, or elaborate explanations when someone violates his boundaries. He simply implements consequences. If someone wastes his time, they get less access to it. If someone disrespects his values, they get removed from his circle. If someone tries to manipulate him, they get cut off entirely. Complete indifference to social status games. Let me paint you a picture that perfectly encapsulates the Sigma's relationship with social status. At a high-end networking event filled with entrepreneurs and executives, while everyone else was name-dropping, flashing expensive watches, and trying to one-up each other with stories of their latest achievements, one man sat quietly in the corner, wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, occasionally checking his phone. People assumed he was some kind of assistant or low-level employee who had somehow gained access to the event. What they didn't know was that this man had just sold his third company for 8 figures and was currently building a business empire that would dwarf most of their combined net worth. He wasn't trying to impress anyone, wasn't seeking validation or recognition, and wasn't playing the social hierarchy games that consumed everyone else's energy. He was there for one specific meeting with one specific person, and once that was completed, he left without saying goodbye to anyone else. This is the ultimate expression of Sigma indifference to social status games, and it's perhaps the most offensive behavior he can exhibit, because it completely invalidates the social structures that most people use to define their worth and position in the world. The Sigma male understands something that escapes most men. Social status games are designed to keep you trapped in external validation cycles rather than building real power and authentic success. While others exhaust themselves trying to climb social ladders, gain peer recognition, and maintain their position in various hierarchies, the Sigma focuses entirely on building actual value and achieving his personal definition of success. This indifference manifests in ways that consistently shock and offend people who are deeply invested in status signaling. The Sigma might drive a 10-year-old Toyota while having millions in the bank, not because he can't afford a luxury car, but because he doesn't need his vehicle to communicate his worth to others. He might wear the same simple clothes every day, not because he lacks fashion sense, but because he'd rather spend his mental energy on more important decisions. In professional settings, this indifference to status games creates profound disruption. In typical office dynamics, while others compete for corner offices, prestigious titles, and visible recognition, the Sigma focuses purely on results and compensation. He doesn't participate in office politics, doesn't seek to climb the corporate ladder for its own sake, and doesn't modify his behavior to gain approval from superiors who don't align with his values. I've observed Sigma males turn down promotions that would increase their status but decrease their autonomy or life satisfaction. They've walked away from prestigious companies to start their own ventures, ignored industry awards and recognition, and declined speaking opportunities that would boost their public profile but distract from their core mission. This behavior is particularly offensive in social media culture, where most people carefully curate their online presence to project success, happiness, and social proof. The Sigma might maintain minimal social media presence despite significant achievements, post simple content without trying to impress anyone, or ignore social media entirely while building real-world success. The most controversial aspect of this indifference is how it affects group dynamics and social gatherings. Status games require participants to maintain their validity. Someone has to play along for the games to continue. When the Sigma refuses to engage in competitive conversations about achievements, possessions, or experiences, it exposes the artificial nature of these interactions and makes others uncomfortable with their own need for external validation. At social events, while others engage in subtle competition about who's more successful, who has better connections, or who's living a more impressive lifestyle, the Sigma either engages in genuine conversation about topics that interest him or removes himself from the situation entirely. He doesn't feel compelled to prove his worth through displays of knowledge, wealth, or accomplishment. This complete disengagement from status competition creates a ripple effect that forces others to confront their own motivations and insecurities. When someone is completely unimpressed by your achievements, unbothered by your status symbols, and uninterested in competing with you, it raises uncomfortable questions about why you need these external validations in the first place. The Sigma's indifference to social status extends to his choice of friends, romantic partners, and business associates. He doesn't choose people based on their social value, their ability to enhance his image, or their position in various hierarchies. Instead, he selects relationships based on character, authenticity, and alignment with his values and goals. This often means his social circle looks very different from what others might expect based on his success level. Perhaps most offensively, the Sigma doesn't feel any obligation to help others climb social ladders or achieve status recognition. He won't provide references for people seeking status rather than competence, won't attend events solely to enhance others' social proof, and won't participate in mutual back-scratching arrangements that benefit social positioning rather than real value creation. This complete indifference to social status games allows the Sigma to allocate 100% of his energy toward building real value, achieving authentic success, and living according to his own definition of meaningful life. While others exhaust themselves in endless status competitions that lead nowhere, the Sigma builds lasting wealth, genuine relationships, and personal satisfaction that doesn't depend on anyone else's recognition or approval. These 7 offensive behaviors aren't just random acts of defiance. They're the carefully crafted tools of a man who has chosen authenticity over acceptance, strength over submission, and personal truth over popular opinion. The Sigma male understands something that escapes most men, that true power comes not from what others think of you, but from what you think of yourself. Every single behavior we've discussed today serves a greater purpose in the Sigma's journey toward complete self-mastery. While others waste their energy trying to fit into boxes that were never meant for them, the Sigma creates his own reality, his own rules, and his own definition of success. But here's what's truly remarkable. Once you start implementing these strategies, you'll notice a profound shift not just in how others perceive you, but in how you perceive yourself. You'll stop seeking permission to be who you are and start demanding respect for who you choose to become. If this content has opened your eyes to the power of Sigma mindset and you're ready to dive deeper into the psychology of authentic masculine leadership, then you absolutely need to subscribe to Official Sigma Male right now. We're building a community of men who refuse to settle for mediocrity, who understand that sometimes being offensive is the price of being authentic, and who are committed to becoming the most powerful versions of themselves. Don't just consume this content. Become part of the movement that's redefining what it means to be a man in today's world. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of other Sigma males who are choosing strength over weakness, truth over comfort, and authentic power over fake popularity.